Where do hackers go when they want your password? Uh, shit. I don't know. That's why I'm here too. All right, let's go ahead and get straight into this. He dropped this 7 months ago. All right, fuck it. Where hackers go when they want your password? Where?
April 4th, 2023. Just before dawn in London, a crash shatters the silence. Bang! Police! Open up! Armed officers rush inside through the front door. A sleepy suspect stares down the barrel of a rifle. At that same moment, raids unfold across 17 countries. FBI agents storm an apartment in New York. In Sydney, police batter down a door. A synchronized global takedown is underway. Its name, Operation Cookie Monster. The target, Genesis Market, a dark website that
Cookie
connects all
Monster.
these suspects nicknamed
Why them noodles look raw? You know what? You know what?
the Amazon of stolen identities. Over 100 arrests are coming in the next hours. But the real question is, how did one illegal website become the go-to shop for cybercriminals around the world? And why did it take a global military-style operation just to shut it down?
Damn, Amazon? The rise of the
story begins in
Now I can even read
2018.
it.
Cybercriminals around the world are running into a new problem. Hacking someone's password is no longer a free ticket into their account. More and more services now use two-factor authentication, 2FA. Those extra security codes
Facts.
sent to your phone. Even if they get the right login, they still get flagged. Hey, this isn't the right device. Try again. For hackers, breaking into accounts is getting harder, and around this time, an invitation-only website quietly emerges on the dark web, offering a game-changing solution. Its name, Genesis Market. At first glance, Genesis's website looks surprisingly ordinary. A user-friendly interface with search bars and filters.
Hold up. Hold up, Jay. This the website they hack on? They got a actual website that they go to hack?
Like any normal online shopping site. But instead of selling books or electronics, Genesis Market sells something far more sinister. Digital
Password?
identities.
That's crazy.
These aren't just stolen usernames and passwords. Genesis offers complete identity kits, harvested from malware-infected computers across the globe. When a victim's computer is secretly infected by malware, it quietly collects all the little pieces of their digital life, saved logins, login cookies, browser fingerprints, and other device markers.
Ew.
Genesis packages all that data from one computer into what they call a bot. Each bot includes everything needed to impersonate someone online: emails, bank logins, cookies, and device fingerprints. Genesis Market puts these up for sale to the highest bidder, often for shockingly low prices. On Genesis, a full digital identity could sell for just a few dollars, sometimes less than a cup of coffee.
Damn,
A package
what?
with login info.
So they selling my information, but not only are they selling my information, they selling it for crumbs. That's fucked up. It's fucked up.
For a UK victim might go for under $1. Even more premium sets, say a wealthy person's banking logins or a bundle of corporate accounts, might be priced under a couple $100s at most. The site's operators made sure it was easy for buyers to find what they wanted. Need bank logins in Canada, crypto accounts in France. Genesis let buyers filter by country and service type. It was a one-stop shop for identity theft, an Amazon-like bazaar where criminals could fill a shopping cart with people's stolen lives. And business was booming. By 2019 and 2020, word of Genesis spread in the criminal underground. On hacking forums, users spoke of it in hushed, reverent tones. It was invite-only, which gave it an air of exclusivity. Some even paid for referral codes just to get in. Genesis's admins, believed to be operating from Russia, kept a low profile but steadily expanded their trove. They advertised under the radar on Russian-language forums, recruiting more hackers to supply stolen data. Each new malware infection meant another bot for sale on Genesis, another victim who likely had no clue their digital identity had been copied. Genesis quietly grew into one of the world's biggest cybercrime markets, yet most people had never even heard of it. It lurked in the shadows, and ironically, also in plain sight. Genesis even had a site on the open web, ClearNet, not just on the dark web, though you still needed an invite to log in. That's how bold the operation was. A massive
Damn.
theft bazaar hiding behind a simple login screen, daring authorities to catch it. For a while, no one did. And in that time, Genesis Market armed thousands of criminals with the tools to impersonate innocent people online. As Genesis rises, criminals recognize its power, and soon they will put it to use in ways that shake the foundations of digital security. But how exactly do these stolen identity kits work? And what can a criminal really do with a few cookies and passwords? Let's
Oh,
put
what you mean
ourselves
what
in
they
the
could do?
shoes
We
of a
know what they
hacker
could
to see
do.
how Genesis Market changed the game. Alex is a small-time criminal who has found his way onto Genesis. He spends a few dollars worth of Bitcoin to purchase a bot, a package of stolen data, for a victim we'll call Sarah. The bot gives Alex everything he needs to become Sarah online: her logins, saved cookies, and her device's digital fingerprint. Using a special tool provided by Genesis, a custom browser called Genesium and a browser plugin, Alex loads
So
Sarah's...
not only do this website give you the identities, the person's identity, the password, the username, everything that they go by online, it also gives them the third party website to download for them to go inside and access all of this stuff. So it's like they want it to be easy to hack. And then on top of that, they only selling this stuff for like crumbs. Like they selling, and this isn't for you to go and do it. I think they actually shut this down. But they selling it for 5 to 10 cents to 50 cents. This shit crazy.
stolen profile into his browser. Suddenly, it's like he's on her laptop. When Alex goes to Sarah's bank website, the bank greets him like an old friend. Because from the bank's perspective, the login looks exactly like Sarah's. Same browser, same computer, a valid cookie that says Sarah is already logged in. No password, no security question, no 2FA. Just access. Alex is in Sarah's bank account in seconds without ever knowing her password or touching her phone. He quickly initiates a transfer of funds to himself. Now imagine this from Sarah's perspective. She's asleep at home in California while this is happening. Her phone doesn't buzz with any authentication code. She doesn't get an alert for a new login because, according to the bank's systems, there wasn't a new login at all. Just Sarah, or so it appeared, continuing an existing session. By the time Sarah wakes up and notices money missing, it's too late. The thief is long gone. Stories like this played out again and again, thanks to Genesis. Criminals like Alex didn't need to be elite hackers. Genesis made it point-and-click simple to rob someone's online accounts. How is this possible? It boils down to those cookies and fingerprints. A cookie is a small file that websites use to remember you, like an ID badge that lets you bypass login. A browser fingerprint is a collection of details about your device, system, browser, etc., that's usually unique to you. Normally, these help verify a legitimate user, but if a criminal steals both, they essentially steal your online identity. They can put on a perfect digital disguise and walk right past security, bypassing multi-factor authentication and fraud checks. In other words, the hacker doesn't need to crack your password or hack your phone. Your saved login session itself is the prize.
Damn.
Genesis Market essentially turned identity theft into a service. Need access to a random stranger's Gmail? For a few bucks, Genesis likely had a bot for that. Want to break into a company's network? You could search the marketplace for an employee's credentials. In one case, a man in New York paid only about $100 in Bitcoin on Genesis and bought 21 stolen identity packages, data from 21 different victims. Using those, he managed to defraud over $25,000 from government programs before getting caught. Genesis dramatically lowered the skill barrier for cybercrime. Even low-level fraudsters could suddenly pose as dozens of different people online. The FBI called Genesis a key enabler for ransomware gangs, letting hackers scale faster than ever. Why go through the trouble of phishing or hacking into a company when you could simply buy an employee's valid login session on Genesis and stroll in through the digital front door. By 2022, Genesis had tens of thousands of bots listed for sale at any given time. The site claimed to have over 80 million account credentials in its inventory, coming from more than 2 million individual victims. These were ordinary people, not just CEOs or billionaires. Anyone unlucky enough to have their computer infected by the wrong malware could end up with their identity sold on Genesis. The result was an invisible crime wave. Just like Sarah, most victims didn't even know they'd been hit until it was too late. Trust in
Y'all ever been hacked before? This shit kind of sound relatable. I ain't gonna lie. Damn. I mean, basically, like, it's not hard to hack. I mean, as you can see, they only really like catch people, I guess, that hack when they are stealing thousands and thousands of dollars. But for niggas like us, I guess the barrier to the entry is lower at cost, at risk. So they just do it just to do it. But this shit crazy.
basic security measures was eroding. If seeing the little padlock icon and entering your password isn't enough to ensure you're the only one accessing your account, then what is? This question started to worry not just victims and cybersecurity experts, but also law enforcement agencies worldwide. Genesis Market was getting too big to ignore, and the global trail of harm it left was growing every day. But the criminals weren't the only ones watching Genesis grow. In the shadows, global investigators were preparing to strike back with a trap worthy of the site's name.
Investigation.
By late 2022, alarms were sounding in cybercrime units around the world. Reports of criminals logging into accounts without triggering any security warnings were piling up. Investigators realized these weren't isolated incidents. They all pointed back to Genesis Market. The FBI, Europol, and law enforcement agencies from numerous countries quietly formed a team to target Genesis. They codenamed their effort Operation Cookie Monster, a playful nod to the key loot being traded, browser cookies, and perhaps an indication that they planned to gobble up the entire operation. But taking down Genesis wouldn't be easy. The site was hidden behind member logins and invite codes, and its operators were careful, likely tucked away in a jurisdiction out of Western reach. This would require creativity and cooperation on a global scale. Investigators began by following the money and the malware. Genesis's inventory came from malware infections, so cyber units traced those malicious programs back to their source. In early 2023, agencies enlisted the help of cybersecurity experts in the private sector. Firms like Trellix were asked to analyze Genesis's malicious software and infrastructure, looking for weaknesses or fingerprints that could lead to the perpetrators. At the same time, intelligence operatives and undercover agents worked to penetrate the marketplace itself. Exactly how they did it is still secret, but their big break came when the FBI managed to obtain copies of Genesis Market's back-end servers. In one stroke, agents got access to the platform's user database, a goldmine of information on the buyers and sellers who had been active on Genesis. According to officials, the systems they obtained included information on about 59,000 user accounts and their activity logs. The very data that criminals thought would keep them anonymous was now in the hands of law enforcement. Using these records, investigators began unmasking the real identities behind the screen names. They found users scattered across the globe, from small-time fraudsters to major organized crime figures, all shopping in Genesis's illicit bazaar. With a growing list of suspects, the trap was set. Operation Cookie Monster moved into its final phase, coordination. This was an international puzzle with pieces in nearly every time zone. Meetings were held via secure video between agencies in Europe, North America, and Australia. They mapped out a massive synchronized strike, ensuring that targets in different countries would be hit at the same moment to prevent any early warning. This required incredible precision. Each participating nation's police prepared arrest teams, warrants, and tech specialists to secure evidence from suspects' computers. The date was set for the global takedown, the first week of April 2023. The investigators had one shot. If word leaked to Genesis's operators, they could pull the plug, vanish into the wind, or warn their users to disappear. but the secrecy around Operation Cookie Monster held tight. In the early hours of the chosen day, agents watched and waited, counting down to the moment they would spring their trap on thousands of unwitting cybercriminals. Would it work? They were about to find out. Just before...
I'm not gonna lie. Fuck. So basically the cops are cracking down on these hackers, but through the website that they are accessing. So even if there's different hackers that's not accessing this specific website, they're still getting away free. But they are doing something about it, at least from what I can see right here. 2 years ago, they're trying to do something about it, and here they go. Yeah.
For dawn on April 4th, 2023, the trap was sprung. In dozens of cities, from London to Los Angeles, officers executed raids simultaneously, catching Genesis Market's users completely off guard. In total, authorities carried out around 200 searches and made roughly 120 arrests worldwide.
Damn.
The sweep netted cybercriminals of all stripes, from key sellers on Genesis to prolific buyers of stolen data. One official called it the largest operation to target stolen credential marketplaces that we have ever conducted. At the same time, Genesis Market's infrastructure was being dismantled. Visitors to the site's usual homepage were met not with the familiar login screen, but with a stark notice, a banner displaying the FBI seal and the logos of agencies from 17 countries. The site had been seized. The message was clear. Genesis Market was officially offline, its domains now under government control. The marketplace that had once offered data from more than 1.5 million compromised computers was gone, wiped out in a day. For the thousands of cybercriminals who relied on it, panic set in. Many realized too late that they had walked into a trap. Their accounts and transaction histories were known to law enforcement, and now officers were literally at their doors. Operation Cookie Monster was by all accounts a success. We have severely disrupted the criminal cyber ecosystem by removing one of its key enablers, Europol's Cybercrime Center chief announced proudly. Taking down Genesis, which had been a pillar of the underground fraud economy, sent shockwaves through hacker communities. A huge arsenal of stolen data was now in police custody instead of in criminals' hands.
That's good.
Experts noted that the absence of Genesis Market would slow down cybercriminal activity significantly, at least for a while. In the aftermath, police and cybersecurity groups even set up websites for people to check if their own identities had been found in Genesis's databases, underscoring how many ordinary folks were affected. Interestingly, the raids did not net the masterminds behind Genesis. No kingpin was paraded in handcuffs. The U.S. Treasury had earlier noted that Genesis's administrators were likely operating from Russia, and indeed none of those arrested turned out to be the site's owners.
Damn.
The core operators remained at large, but their marketplace was dealt a mortal blow. Genesis Market, as it had existed for 5 years, was effectively finished. For law enforcement, Operation Cookie Monster was a landmark victory that choked off a...
What the fuck y'all think they talk about? Shit.
major pipeline of stolen data. However, the case also sounded a broader alarm. It exposed how fragile our digital safeguards can be when faced with this kind of threat. Genesis was gone. But the vulnerability it exploited, still wide open. And that's where the real danger begins. The dark web's Amazon for stolen identities might be gone, but its legacy is a warning to us all. Genesis Market showed us the future of cybercrime. But what happens when kids, not criminals, start breaching billion-dollar companies? To see how a 17-year-old leaked Grand Theft Auto 6 using only a Fire TV stick.
And yes, if y'all want to see that, we're gonna watch it. I love y'all. This was interesting video. Very interesting. It's like I learned something new every day. I'm out.